know the traditional wedding finale, right? Like you've probably lived through it, I don't know, a dozen times.
Oh, at least a dozen. Easily.
Yeah, exactly. The lights dim slightly. The DJ fades the music down, and everyone is kind of just standing around the perimeter of the room. And you, as a guest, you're expected to just passively watch the newlyweds slice into this giant, static, tiered cake.
Right. It's very, very rigid.
It is. It's a moment that's completely frozen in time. You clap, you wait like 20 minutes, and eventually someone hands you a tiny slice of, fondant-covered vanilla sponge.
Usually pretty dry sponge, too.
Exactly. But for this deep dive, I want you to imagine replacing that static, passive observation with an interactive, edible theme park for your guests.
I love that description. An edible theme park, because it really does fundamentally change the entire architecture of an event.
It totally does.
You aren't just giving people sugar at that point. You are engineering a massive shift from, like, passive observation, where the guest is really just an audience member, to a highly personalized, interactive guest experience.
Right.
The guest becomes an active participant in the final act of the celebration. It's a huge psychological shift.
And that shift is really the entire mission of our deep dive today. We are exploring the luxurious, captivating, and frankly, logistically terrifying wedding friend known as the Viennese Hour.
Terrifying is definitely the right word if you aren't prepared for it.
Oh, absolutely. So we are pulling our insights today from a comprehensive industry guide. It's titled Viennese Hour Dessert Buffet in American East Coast Weddings.
Really fascinating document, by the way.
Oh, it's so good. So today we're going to deconstruct what makes this lavish tradition sort of the ultimate hospitality flex. We're going to examine its popularity specifically on the American East Coast. And crucially, we're going to explore how modern digital infrastructure is basically the only thing keeping these massive undertakings from just collapsing into total chaos.
Right, because without the right tools, it's a disaster waiting to happen.
Exactly. Specifically, we're going to look at how the Weddizer platform allows couples to navigate really niche cultural traditions using its business directory and how they plan by guidance through their curated articles.
Yeah, before we can even start building this dessert empire, though, I feel like we need to establish the parameters. Because the term Viennese Hour, it sounds like a historical period piece, you know?
It sounds like people in powdered wigs eating cake.
Right. But the guide defines it as this massive, lavish dessert display deployed strictly toward the end of a wedding reception. Though, honestly, calling it a display is entirely inadequate.
Yeah, a display makes it sound like a museum exhibit.
Exactly. It is a multi-sensory environment. It requires a vast selection of international pastries, highly structured, elegant presentations, and live culinary action stations. It functions as the grand finale of the evening.
Which is wild. And, the name itself, Viennese Hour, it immediately points us across the Atlantic, right? We are talking about Austria.
Specifically Vienna.
Vienna, right? Which has this legendary coffeehouse culture that dates back centuries. You have people sitting for hours in these, opulent, velvet-lined cafes, consuming elaborate torts, strudels, and very specific, complex coffees.
It's an incredibly leisurely, high society approach to dessert.
It really is. It's not like the American grab a donut and run kind of vibe.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And that historical context is critical for understanding its modern application,
Yeah.
We aren't looking at a historical reenactment of a 19th century Austrian cafe.
Right. Nobody is forcing the guests to waltz.
Thankfully, what we are looking at is how a very localized European tradition of leisurely indulgence was imported by immigrants, adapted for a different culture, and then massively amplified into a modern American wedding staple.
Massively amplified is right.
Yeah, it basically took the DNA of European cafe culture
Yeah.
and just injected it with a modern entertainment budget.
It's like taking the Sacretort and giving it the Hollywood blockbuster treatment.
That's a great way to put it.
But, what caught my attention immediately in the source material is the geographical lock. Because this isn't just a broad American trend. The text explicitly anchors this phenomenon to American East Coast weddings.
Yeah, that's a really important distinction. The East Coast of the United States has this very distinct historical relationship with traditional luxury and social signaling.
Wait, say more about the social signaling part.
Well, think about the Gilded Age, right? You have the grand estates in Newport, Rhode Island. You have the old world social clubs of New York and Boston. The highly structured formal events of the Astors and the Vanderbilts.
Oh, sure. The real old money vibe.
Exactly. There's a deep-seated cultural desire for a specific type of high-end sophistication on the East Coast. And the elaborate, opulent feel of the Viennese display perfectly slots right into that regional aesthetic.
It just fits the mold.
It does. It communicates wealth, abundance, and European elegance in a way that a simple tiered cake never could.
Okay, I hear abundance and opulence, but my mind instantly goes to a completely different kind of abundance.
Uh-oh. Where does your mind go?
Well, if you put that much food out on a table, no matter how much money you spent on it, you risk creating a Vegas casino buffet.
Oh, no. The dreaded casino buffet.
Right, like a casino buffet is great if it's 2 in the morning and you just want prime rib and crab legs, but it is not the pinnacle of East Coast sophistication.
No, definitely not.
If elegance is the ultimate goal, a massive buffet just seems like an incredibly risky maneuver to me.
Well, that tension you're talking about, that is the central problem of the Viennese Hour. A pile of pastries on a folding table is basically a cafeteria line.
Exactly.
To elevate that into a true luxury experience, you have to rely entirely on strict architectural and sensory design. The presentation rules in the guide are basically non-negotiable.
So let's break down those design rules, starting with the actual edible inventory, because you can't just put out like 500 chocolate chip cookies.
As delicious as that sounds, no?
Right. The guide mandates a highly specific curated variety. We're talking mini cheesecakes, chocolate truffles, macarons, cannoli, cupcakes, and fruit tarts.
It's a very intentional list.
It is. When you look at that lineup, you are looking at an incredible cross-section of global culinary traditions.
That's as an international melting pot.
Hmm.
You have the structural complexity of a French macaron sitting right next to the rustic deep-fried crunch of an Italian cannoli.
Oh, the textural contrast there is insane.
Yeah. And then they're sharing space with the very American cupcake. It is curating the best of global sweets into a single, cohesive presentation.
And like you said, the sensory contrast is huge. You have the sharp snap of tempered chocolate on a truffle, contrasting with the soft, whipped ricotta filling of the cannoli.
Right.
But bringing it back to my fear of the Viennese casino buffet, you can't just lay these out on a flat tray. The eye needs somewhere to go, right?
Which is exactly why the guide dictates highly specific presentation tools. You have to use tiered stands.
Build height.
Yes, to force the eye upward. It creates verticality and breaks up the horizontal monotony of a standard banquet table.
Because a flat table just looks like a yard sale of food.
Precisely. And then you use crystal trays to catch and refract the ambient lighting of the room. You integrate dense floral arrangements to sort of soften the hard edges of the servingware.
Right, to make it feel organic.
Right. You use gold or metallic accents to visually communicate premium quality.
It sounds like open kitchen theater mixed with high-end interior decorating.
That's exactly what it is.
And the motivation behind all this styling isn't just about the guests who are currently standing in the room. The guide specifically brings up the era of social media.
Oh, absolutely. The visual layout is entirely engineered to be photographed.
Every single angle.
Yes. When you meticulously arrange lighting to hit crystal and gold, you are creating an environment that demands to be shared online. It boosts wedding engagement metrics. The aesthetic is explicitly designed to be, as the industry terms it, Instagram-worthy.
Which makes sense. I mean, you don't rent crystal tiers unless you want a return on that investment in the form of awe, and likes.
Lots of likes.
But the static display is only half the battle, right? Because this is where we get into the live stations and the beverage pairing.
Oh, the live stations are where it really gets exciting.
Yeah, the guide lists, crepe making counters, chocolate fountains, gelato bars, and on the beverage side, espresso bars, dessert wines, and elaborate hot chocolate stations.
It's so immersive.
This is the open kitchen theater I was talking about. You are taking the back-of-house culinary mechanics and dragging them out to use as front-of-house entertainment.
Right, because the introduction of, say, a live crepe station fundamentally alters the atmosphere of the room. You are introducing the sound of sizzling butter.
Oh, man, sizzling butter.
You're introducing the kinetic movement of a chef spreading batter. But most importantly, you are introducing the aroma of caramelizing sugar and vanilla into the reception space.
And smell is so tied to emotion.
Olfactory stimulation is incredibly powerful. That smell alone pulls guests off the dance floor. It changes the dynamic from a winding down period to an active, engaging secondary event.
I really love the idea of the aroma acting as a magnet, just pulling people in. But okay, if you have ever been to an event where the buffet line felt like a traffic jam, you know exactly how quickly luxury turns into sheer frustration.
Oh, there's nothing less luxurious than a queue.
Exactly. I am looking at this list: live crepe pans, chocolate fountains, espresso machines, and all I see is a logistical nightmare. If I tried to coordinate this, someone would undoubtedly trip over an extension cord and send the chocolate fountain cascading across the entire dance floor.
I can literally picture that happening.
Yeah.
And honestly, the execution is where the Viennese Hour either becomes a legendary success or a complete catastrophic failure.
So how do you avoid the catastrophe?
Well, the guide explicitly outlines the pitfalls of this luxury. And the absolute most critical mistake is ignoring crowd flow logistics. You have to think about the physical architecture of the venue.
Right, where the doors are, where the tables are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because if you place the espresso bar right next to the chocolate fountain in a tight corner, you instantly create a pinch point.
Because everyone wants both coffee and chocolate at the exact same time, like, obviously.
Obviously. So 200 guests converge on a 10-foot space. Lines form. Guests are awkwardly shuffling sideways while holding small plates of delicate pastries.
Trying not to spill espresso on their dresses.
Right, and the luxury experience immediately devolves into annoyance. You have to map the flow of the room, separating the stations to naturally distribute the crowd.
Okay, so you space it out. But once the crowd actually gets to the table, there's the problem of what they find there. The guide hammers home the concept of replenishment.
This is huge, because the illusion of endless abundance is the core psychological driver of the Viennese Hour.
Endless abundance. I like that phrase.
It has to feel infinite. If the caterer doesn't actively swap out the trays of mini cheesecakes, the literal second they run low, the display dies.
Because a crystal tray with 3 crumbs and like a half-eaten strawberry on it is deeply depressing.
Depressing is the exact word. It looks abandoned. The staff has to operate with military precision, constantly replenishing the inventory from the back so the table always looks completely untouched, even an hour into the service.
Which brings up a fascinating point about balance. Because the guide explicitly warns against overcrowding the table. You would think more food equals more opulence, right?
It's a common misconception.
But if you cram 500 pastries onto a table meant for 200, you completely obscure those beautiful tiered stands we talked about.
You lose the negative space. And in design, negative space is what allows the eye to appreciate the object.
Oh.
If the table is cluttered, it stops looking like a curated selection of international delicacies and starts looking like a chaotic mountain of food. It loses its sophistication.
Okay, I am exhausted just thinking about this.
That's a lot of work.
It's an insane amount of work. You are asking a couple who are already stressed out planning a wedding to suddenly become crowd control architects and interior designers specializing in negative space.
And culinary directors.
Yes, culinary directors managing the simultaneous operation of a European cafe and a French bakery. That is an impossible burden for a normal person.
It is entirely impossible.
Yeah.
And that impossibility is the exact reason the industry relies so heavily on digital infrastructure now.
Okay, here we go. This is the modern solution.
Right. The guide doesn't just present this mountain of logistical hurdles and expect a couple to manually figure it out with a spreadsheet. The entire operation hinges on utilizing the Weddizer platform as sort of the central nervous system for the event.
Let's really dig into how Weddizer actually solves these problems, starting with their business directory. Because, look, finding someone to bake a standard cake is easy. You can Google that. But finding someone to execute an authentic Viennese Hour is an entirely different sport.
Completely different sport.
The guide focuses really heavily on using the Weddizer website, specifically for cultures and traditions purposes, which you can find right in their business section.
And this is a crucial distinction. Let's look at the mechanics of the pastries we just discussed.
Yeah.
If you want a traditional French macaron, you're dealing with an incredibly temperamental item.
Oh, I've seen baking shows. Macarons are a nightmare.
Absolute nightmare. A macaron relies on precise meringue chemistry. The egg whites have to be aged. The almond flour must be milled to an exact specification.
Really? Aged egg whites?
Oh, yeah. And the humidity in the kitchen on the day of baking can completely ruin the characteristic feet of the cookie, that little ruffled edge at the bottom.
So a generalist baker who makes amazing, sturdy fondant wedding cakes might completely fail at a delicate French pastry.
They almost certainly will. A fondant-focused kitchen operates entirely differently than a patisserie.
That makes total sense.
So if you want an authentic Austrian Seccatorte, or the perfect crispness of an Italian cannoli shell, one that won't turn soggy after an hour sitting on a crystal display, you require a hyper-specialist.
Right.
The Weddizer business directory allows couples to filter past the generalists and locate these exact niche cultural artisans. You are hiring for cultural authenticity, not just general baking skills.
Okay, so you use the Weddizer business section to find the specialist who actually understands the chemistry of the culture and the tradition you are trying to honor. That's brilliant.
Takes the guesswork out of it.
But let's say you secure the perfect Austrian pastry chef through the directory. You still have to figure out how to arrange those pastries on a table so it doesn't look like that cluttered mess we were just talking about.
The dreaded mountain of food.
Right. And this is where the guide points to planning by guidance through Weddizer's niche articles.
Yes, the platform functions as an educational roadmap. It isn't just a vendor marketplace where you buy things. It actually teaches the user the language of event design.
Which is so needed. Like, the guide mentions matching the dessert table to very specific themes like vintage, modern, rustic, or glam.
Right.
If you, as the listener, want a rustic Viennese hour, what does that actually mean? Because you can't just throw delicate French macarons onto a raw piece of firewood and call it rustic.
Please don't do that.
Right. It would look ridiculous.
It would.
Yeah.
You need to understand how to translate rustic into the visual language of high-end desserts. So by exploring the curated blogs and these really specific, niche, real wedding articles on Weddizer, a couple learns how to do that.
They get a blueprint.
Exactly. They learned how to substitute the crystal tiers for, say, polished, reclaimed wood stands.
Oh, that sounds beautiful.
It is. And they learn how to swap the heavy, formal floral arrangements for wild organic greenery like eucalyptus or ferns. They learn how to style the table so that the European tradition seamlessly integrates into like a barn venue without feeling disjointed.
It essentially democratizes event design. It gives you the blueprint, so you don't have to hire a $10,000 event designer just to tell you where to put the cake stands.
Exactly.
But even with the perfect cultural artisans from the business directory and the perfect blueprint from the niche articles, you still have to pay for it all, and you still have to execute it on the clock.
And this is where the digital tools for budget management and timeline coordination come in as the final fail-safes.
Because budget is always a zero-sum game.
Always. If you over-index on that live crepe station we were drooling over, you might not have the budget left for the floral arrangements required to make the table look elegant.
And then you're back to the folding table cafeteria line.
Exactly. Weddizer's smart tools allow couples to model those financial trade-offs in real time.
And the timeline coordination might actually be the most important part of the entire night, honestly.
Timing is the silent killer of events.
The silent killer. Wow, that's intense, but true.
Think about it. If you deploy the Viennese Hour too early, like while guests are still digesting the main course, no one engages with it.
Everyone's too full.
Right.
Right.
But if you roll it out abruptly in the middle of an incredible high-energy dance set, you completely kill the momentum of the room.
You just murdered the vibe.
Exactly. It has to be deployed at the precise moment the energy naturally dips. Weddizer's timeline features allow the couple to coordinate with the DJ, the caterer, and the venue staff to ensure the grand reveal happens exactly when the psychology of the room demands it.
It's like conducting an orchestra.
It really is.
When you look at the sheer amount of specialized knowledge, cultural nuance, and minute-by-minute coordination required to pull this off, all made possible by Weddizer, you realize why this tradition is causing such a massive paradigm shift in the wedding industry.
It really is a shift.
The guide sets up this direct confrontation. They call it the great debate between the Viennese Hour and the traditional wedding cake.
It is basically a battle of hospitality philosophies.
I love that. A battle of philosophies.
Think about it. The traditional single wedding cake represents a monolithic choice. It is singular, it is deeply tied to historical tradition, and physically, it is a static centerpiece. You just look at it.
Right. You stare at it, it gets cut, you eat it.
The Viennese Hour, on the other hand, represents multiplicity. It represents modern, interactive trendiness.
It is the difference between staring at a sculpture in a museum and being handed the chisel.
That is a perfect analogy. But, the guide does note a really pragmatic compromise that's happening right now.
Oh, where they do both.
Exactly. Many couples aren't entirely abandoning the cake. They will secure a small, beautifully decorated cake purely for the traditional photo op.
Because the parents and grandparents want that iconic image for the photo album.
Right, you get the photo, but then they rely entirely on the grand buffet for the actual guest experience.
That compromise completely highlights the shift in priority. The photo is for the couple, but the Viennese hour is for the room. And this shift toward multiplicity solves a massive structural flaw in the traditional cake model regarding dietary needs.
Oh, this is such an important point.
Right. If you are serving one massive slice of vanilla cake to 200 people, you are inevitably going to alienate a significant percentage of your guests.
Absolutely.
If you, listening to this right now, have a gluten intolerance, or you are vegan, or you are diabetic,
Mm,
the traditional cake cutting ceremony is functionally useless to you.
it's actively exclusionary.
Right. You are completely excluded from the finale of the meal. You just have to sit there with a glass of water while everyone else eats.
The monolithic cake is inherently exclusionary in a modern context. Dietary restrictions are ubiquitous now. The Viennese hour bypasses this problem effortlessly.
Because of the variety.
Exactly. Because the entire concept relies on massive variety, a caterer can easily integrate an entire section of gluten-free almond macarons, or vegan dark chocolate truffles, or sugar-free fruit tarts.
And because it's presented as part of this massive opulent display, it doesn't feel like a sad dietary afterthought.
You aren't just handing someone a wrapped gluten-free brownie from the back kitchen.
Ugh, the wrapped brownie. The worst.
Exactly the opposite here. The guest with dietary restrictions gets to participate in the exact same luxurious interactive experience as everyone else. The focus shifts entirely from forcing the guest to accept the couple's singular flavor choice to actively accommodating the varied needs of the guests.
It is the highest form of modern hospitality, making everyone feel seen and catered to,
It really is.
which points us directly toward the future. The guide outlines the coming trends in wedding desserts, highlighting a massive push toward even deeper cultural dessert themes, hyper-personalized dessert stations, and interestingly, eco-friendly presentations.
The eco-friendly aspect is fascinating in the context of a massive buffet.
It is. How do you envision eco-friendly presentations altering the mechanics of the Viennese hour?
Well, when you think about a traditional buffet, especially with live stations, the potential for waste is just staggering.
Mountains of trash.
Think about the gelato bar. You usually have hundreds of tiny, single-use plastic spoons and non-recyclable coated paper cups. If the industry is moving toward true eco-friendly presentations, we're going to see a rapid elimination of those elements. You might see a shift toward entirely edible serving vessels.
Oh, like miniature dark chocolate cups holding the mousse.
Exactly. Or structurally sound waffle cones for the gelato instead of paper cups. Or perhaps the integration of highly sustainable, compostable bamboo servingware that still manages to maintain that high-end aesthetic.
I love the idea of bamboo next to crystal, but again, finding a vendor who does high-end bamboo servingware, you're probably going right back to the Weddizer platform.
You'd have to. If a couple wants to implement that zero-waste luxury concept, they would immediately return to Weddizer. They would use the niche articles to understand how bamboo styling looks next to traditional crystal.
And they would filter the business directory for cultures and traditions to find the specific caterers who actually specialize in sustainable event execution.
Exactly. The platform facilitates the evolution of the trend. It's the engine driving these changes.
It is incredible how deep this goes. I mean, we started this deep dive looking at what I thought was just a simple table of desserts, and we've unpacked an entire sociocultural phenomenon.
It's never just dessert.
Clearly, we trace the DNA of the Viennese hour from the leisurely, velvet-lined coffee houses of 19th century Austria across the ocean to the status-obsessed Gilded Age estates of the American East Coast.
We really went on a journey today.
We did. We broke down the intense multisensory mechanics required to make it work. You know, the snap and crunch of international pastries, the all-textural necessity of tiered crystal, and the olfactory magnet of a live crepe station.
We also examined the hidden dangers, though.
The pinch points.
The pinch points, yes. The logistical nightmare of crowd flow bottlenecks, the psychological importance of maintaining that illusion of abundance through constant replenishment, and the delicate balance of negative space in food presentation.
And we saw how literally none of this is possible without the digital infrastructure of Weddizer acting as the central nervous system, using its business section to hunt down the hyper-specialized artisans for specific cultures and traditions, and relying on its niche articles to translate vague concepts like rustic luxury or eco-friendly elegance into actual executable design blueprints.
It is a complete masterclass in how an old world tradition is digitally managed to create modern hospitality.
It really is. So for you listening, whether you are currently deep in the trenches of planning your own event, or if you are just attending a wedding this season, or even if you're just fascinated by the hidden mechanics of human gatherings, I really want you to notice this massive shift.
Keep your eyes open at the next reception.
Absolutely. The entire focus of how we celebrate has moved away from erecting these static monuments to the hosts, and it's shifted entirely toward curating dynamic, inclusive, multisensory experiences for the guests.
Which leaves us with a really necessary question about the future of all our social rituals.
Oh, where are you going with this?
Well, the rise of the Viennese Hour proves definitively that modern guests crave interactivity, choice, and agency over passive observation.
Right. We want to be part of the show.
Exactly. So if the static, traditional cake cutting is actively being dismantled and replaced by these immersive, choose-your-own-adventure dessert environments, what other passive traditions are living on borrowed time?
Oh, wow. That's a great point.
Could the awkward 20-minute seated dinner speeches or even the traditional choreographed first dance soon be entirely replaced by interactive, guest-driven experiences?
You know, I wouldn't be surprised if the speeches are the next thing to go. That is something to think about the next time you find yourself standing around the perimeter of a dance floor waiting for something to happen.
Definitely.
Thank you for joining us as we unpacked the sweet, highly orchestrated, and logistically complex world of the Viennese Hour. Until next time, keep looking for the interactive moments in a passive world.